Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, whenever we want to get an update on the kids, there's one place to go here in Terrebonne Parish. That's with Bubba Wasserall. Bubba, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, it's one of those things where I know we've been talking about recovery for a long, long time, and we always appreciate your time. And I know the time and effort that's spent on taking care of the kids and what they need and what they're doing. There's some good news happening in some of the recovery in some of the schools.
That's right. Yes.
And I'm one of those that, you know, fortunately I live on the east side. I get to pass by quite often. I get to see some of those schools, but Acadian has gotten really, really close.
Yeah, right. It's looking really good too.
Yeah.
And you know, and you think about it, I was thinking on my way here, for the storm, water got under my front door and it seeped through the whole living room and the floor buckled, right? So I changed out the floor.
Right.
Well, it's amazing, obviously. I mean, it's obvious, but yet amazing how changing floor can transform a home, right?
Right.
And I think it's the same thing with the school. You know, we had older tile floors.
Right.
Some of them built up wax or just scuffed and just old, right?
Right.
And then you change a floor, it makes a hallway in a classroom just pop.
Right.
You know, especially if you go light colors that reflect light real well with a splash of colors. And I think you have some pictures. So you'll see how the accent colors in the floor, like at Acadian. There you go.
And what a perfect description of exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. And it really, so when you look at that picture, you see, so there's new floors. And then you look in the hallways, these are all new ceiling grids and tiles and lights.
Perfect example.
It transforms a hallway in a classroom as well, right? And at Acadian, what we were able to do, we were able to see, you can see right there, these are all new windows that we were able to kind of incorporate from the storm. And then we kind of didn't have FEMA coverage on all the windows, so we kind of said, you know, we're gonna put in district money to kind of do the whole school. So we kind of have the whole school. Here's the cafeteria. You know, you can see that again, new ceiling tiles and a simple thing like a ceiling tile, like that makes a difference, but it does.
But it does.
When you've got rusted grids and then you go to that in a cafeteria, it changes an environment for the workers in a cafeteria and most importantly, teachers and kids.
Right.
You know,
it's
they're
about the learning environment now,
yes,
right?
yes.
Where we have the school that was there. I went to Acadian. So, I mean, I'm 55. I went to Acadian. So looking back at that kind of reminds us what a remarkable transformation and how good of a job that's been done. And for those of us who know about the process, how timely.
It needed to be done, right? Yes. So, and even at Acadian, simple things like we had these beautiful cypress trees in the front of Acadian. Okay, well cypress trees are nice, but along with cypress trees comes roots and the knees. And also it kept the building shaded and algae was growing or this green stuff on the white bricks, right? You could pressure wash it yearly, but it would get nasty looking, right?
Almost immediately.
So we took the trees out now, and every step there's another, you know, something you have to solve, right? So there's no more trees, yet the dirt was splashing on the building. So we've got to come back. We're going to mulch all that because we really want it to look nice as you walk into that school.
Right. As you mentioned.
Those pictures are really good. It does justice for what the school actually looks like.
Right.
And we didn't have a whole lot of classroom shots, but classrooms look like those hallway pictures we just looked at.
And again, we're empowering those teachers, empowering them.
Yes.
It's a brand new school.
Right.
And now they're excited about it.
Yeah. And one more thing about Acadian and other schools, most of our other schools, but Acadian, it's multiple buildings, right? You know, and they're all set apart, obviously. So what we've done, we've invested in perimeter fencing, just so we feel a whole lot more confident when kids are transitioning from one building to another, that there's no infiltration of anybody coming in unless they're scaling a pretty high fence, you know.
Right.
And no, we do have all our doors locked and all, but
Sure.
kids have to transition. So we have Acadian fully fenced in with perimeter fencing. So that's something we kind of doing at every school, as a matter of fact.
Security of the
yeah,
kids,
yes,
right? We
yes.
want a learning opportunity, but we also want to make sure that it's safe. I mean, it's very
And
important.
fencing is not the end all be all of safety, but it's a layer. It's one more layer other
Right.
than locking doors. And then the other thing we're doing, and Oaklawn's gonna be our prototype, right? We're
Okay.
gonna make these retrofitted vestibules. Like we're gonna take existing schools and we'll build somewhat of a waiting room for parents and visitors that come in, like most offices are. You know,
Right,
you come in and
right.
you're kind of contained in an area till you're literally, buzzed
Escorted,
in,
right.
escorted
Or
in.
allowed to go.
Yes, and we'll put the ballistic glass, and then have the pass through for credentials, and have a little box to school bags or lunch boxes or whatever it might be that kids forget sometimes. We'll, instead of having people coming in, we'll just pass the items through those kind of devices. So that's coming too. We're getting that done as well.
That's exciting. And that, again, is going to be at Oaklawn, right?
Oaklawn's gonna be our prototype.
First prototype for
now,
that.
The new builds, right, like Southdown, Mulberry, not Grand Caillou, but Southdown and Mulberry, it was built into the design. So,
Right,
So
right.
we'll be building Grand Caillou Elementary and Upper Little Caillou and Ellender and South Terrebonne Middle. Those four, that's all going to be designed in the new build. But we can retrofit most of our buildings to easily make a vestibule, you know.
And what a great idea. And I love the idea and the fact that we're taking this the most challenging situation. IT has been the most challenging in maybe 100 years that we've dealt with. And now we're taking that as an opportunity to say, okay, what can we do that's better? What can we do
That's
to
right.
improve
Right.
this situation?
That's silver lining, right? Yeah, we've kind of been
Exactly.
using that term quite often in our meetings,
Right.
as things are getting done. You say, well, this is the silver lining,
Right.
in a tough situation.
Yeah, I love it. Bubba, we appreciate the updates. We always appreciate your time. Thank you for sticking around.
Sure.
We'll do this one more time.
Yeah.
We
Sounds
appreciate
good.
it very,
All right.
very much. All right, guys, you stick around as well. We'll be right back with Superintendent Terrebonne Parish Schools, Bubba Armstrong, when we come back.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And as always, joining us, updates for the kids. Bubba Armstrong. Bubba, thanks again for joining us.
Sure.
We appreciate it. Now, one of those things, I'm so glad that we spend a lot of time talking about recovery and where things stand, but let's talk a little bit about the curriculum and more specifically math.
Okay, sure. So we're making a significant change in math curriculum. We've been for roughly eight years using a curriculum called Eureka Math.
Okay.
Okay, and parents out there are familiar with Eureka Math.
Yes, I've heard the term.
And they're familiar typically because it's not the same procedures and structure that we've all learned math with, and myself included.
Right.
We were very traditional and foundational.
Right.
And what we've had decent results with Eureka Math.
Okay.
Right. Our kids have made progress and we're scoring better than the majority of the state in math. However, we've been stagnant. And I think we can perform better. And I say that because in English language arts, we're one of the top 5 districts in Louisiana.
In Louisiana, right.
And in math, we're in the 20 out of 70, ranked, So you figure, same kids, and our teachers are effective in ELA and math.
Right.
So you got to kind of start looking at other factors, right? And we kind of feel the curriculum, Eureka, is, could be changed with something better, right?
Okay.
So getting back to parents, and we've been hearing from parents for a long time, how it's hard to support their students or their children because it's unfamiliar to them, right? Not that it's overcomplicated. It's math. Math is math, but the procedures, I think parents have a tendency to kind of want to go back and say, do it like this. This is how I learned it. This is easy.
This is how
Try
I can help you
this.
with it. Right.
And I can help you with it like this because this is math. And they're right. They are right on when they say that. However, the Eureka is very conceptual. And I kind of liken it to, or use this example. It's a very simple example. We've learned number 2 plus 2 equals 4, right?
Right.
Well, Eureka, it gets into the conceptual side of what 2 plus 2 is. So you might have like 2 triangles and 2 squares. That's 4 objects.
Okay.
It's 2 plus 2, but it's looking at the conceptual behind what does 2 plus 2 actually mean.
What does it mean?
And we use things like tape diagrams, and a lot of conceptual drawings, and they have to draw their math out. And parents are not familiar with it, and it doesn't make sense to some parents. And sometimes I wonder, okay, are we overdoing the conceptual, right? We have 5 different ways to solve 2 plus 2. Not solve it, but kind of conceptualize what that means.
Yeah, how we look at it, how we see it.
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with conceptualizing numbers. Some kids need that, right? But I think we've lost a whole lot of tutors at home in parents because they want to kind of rely on, again, traditional foundational math, the way math is done historically, right? Okay. And doing this is just a little foreign. So there's a disconnect, and there's been a disconnect between parents and the math we're using. And we want parents to help kids,
sure,
and help them in a very traditional way. So lots of discussion about switching, because it's not easy to switch curriculum.
No.
And we've given this, in my opinion, a substantial amount of time. 10 years, 18 years is enough. So I've been kind of having conversations with our math curriculum specialist and chief academic officer about is there anything out there, which there are, but the state tiers curricula. They tier it. The tier 1 is like the highest, and meaning it's aligned to the standards the best. Okay. Tier 2, obviously, and tier 3 is like the least aligned. So there's 3 tiers. Well, Eureka was like the sole tier 1 curriculum for quite some time. Now there are others that are kind of making their way. They've been vetted to be a tier 1. So we'll say, well, now's the time. Do any of these new tier 1s kind of resemble traditional math?
Right.
The way I did it, the way you did it, and probably the way the majority of our parents did it, right? And the answer is yes, there are some. And there's one. Nice. So we had actually 3 of them, 3 that were back to basics, back to traditional. So we had teachers come in. We laid them all out. We had all the vendors give us their little packages and spiels of each one of the 3. Teachers came in, ranked them, took notes and whatnot. And I even had parents. We had our parent representative committee. I said, here are the 3 options. I said, I want you to know, you kind of told me you're looking for something new.
Right.
And here they are. We're making that move. So at the end of the day, based on teacher feedback and input, administrator feedback and input, we're selecting and going with a curriculum called iReady.
iReady.
Little iReady.
iReady. Okay.
And so iReady math is again, very traditional.
Okay.
So I hope parents really like that. And what traditional, they can take a student's book and look at examples of how to solve problems, all the way from K to 8th grade. So it's not like an elementary, it's a K through 8th switch. And it's kind of like, okay, here's an example. Like here's how you solve a problem. You practice, a lot of practice problems. See, Eureka didn't have a lot of practice problems.
Right.
Teachers were pulling additional practice.
They had to do their own.
Yeah, so this will be a chance for just parents to kind of look at samples, look at an example, work it together, and get efficient and proficient in solving math problems.
And we'll get a chance to maybe see how this implementation is going. We'll talk about it over that time.
Sounds
good. And we want all of us to be ready, right?
Yes,
and that's the whole point.
That's good, right.
But we appreciate your time as always, and we look forward to seeing how things are going. Thanks for always being so good about giving us updates.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Very good. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular segment. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Bayou time when we continue.